All right, for more on this discussion, we're now joined by Youth Employment Portfolio Head at Momentum Group, Nkosinathi Mahlangu. He joins us now via our video link. Nkosinathi, thank you so much for your time this evening. Firstly, let's start off and get your reaction when it comes to the President's SONA address last night, particularly with the focus from an economic perspective.
Thank you very much, Mbali, and good evening to the listeners. It was quite an optimistic delivery from the President, looking at the ambitious 3% economic growth that the government is targeting. And now the question is, how do we get there as a country? Because we know that the South African economy is very sluggish, and now we need to create job opportunities for people to participate actively into this economy, and that's one way we can help it grow.
And of course, I mean, you speak a lot about the 3% growth target. And how possible is that when we know that we have a stagnant economy, and for an economy to create jobs, it does need economic growth?
Most definitely, Mbali. Looking at that 3% growth, it is an optimistic target, however, definitely achievable in terms of how do we now get processes in place in terms of, getting our economy to perform. Because one way to get the economy to perform is to get people spending and participating in the economy, which now brings us back to the unemployment rate. As we have seen, the youth unemployment rate has reached a staggering 60%. So now with what the President has mentioned in terms of, the graduate recruitment scheme and some of the infrastructure programs that government has got lined up, we need to use those as catalysts to fast track the growth of our economy.
And of course, when you speak about job creation and the economy, the target here is always manufacturing. And looking at the State of the Nation address, I mean, he did touch on the issue around the green manufacturing economy as well as the digital economy, and looking at the tourism sector. Are these fruitful sectors to target to ensure that we do see job creation?
It is a starting point, and especially looking at what the President has said in terms of the number of young people getting employment opportunities through the youth.mobi app. And now looking in terms of ICT and, the manufacturing type of a sector, and looking at those in terms of how do they help us get young people on board. The question now would be, now that we have load shedding slightly behind us, now it means we can get a consistent flow of energy and access to energy, which can definitely help to get the economy running. But in terms of tourism, it all begins with us. It starts at home. Let South Africans explore the country. And the only way to explore the country is when you have it means to participate to the economy through employment. Then that's when we can see, the economy starting to move in the right direction.
And Nkosinathi, I mean, what do you make of the support that's been given to small businesses? That 20 billion rand fund, of course, called the Transformation Fund. We know it's not new, but what do you make in terms of trying to drive the economy from that perspective, to see job creation and, these businesses essentially being funded? Because small businesses play a very big role in our country's economy.
They certainly do, Mbali, and it was quite encouraging to hear the President mentioning this again, because I remember in the previous State of the Nation address, he did mention that there would be red tape, that will be removed in terms of helping small businesses and SMMEs. However, especially with us as a Momentum Group, we're also focusing on how do we play that role, have through those public-private partnerships to say, how do we get those opportunities that government will make available in fast-tracking the advancement of youth-owned businesses? So definitely small businesses are the key in terms of, getting our economy to turn the tide. But now we'll have to look at the low-hanging fruits to tap into those sectors to say, which sectors do we start from so that we can now start to grow and see the ripple effect of this intervention.
Of course, we know that the finance minister will give clarity on some of the details, particularly when it comes to the economy, in the next week or so. What are your expectations when it comes to the finance minister in terms of how he will maneuver some of these points which have been made by the president to grow the economy?
Yes, the SONA is definitely the precursor in terms of where to go as a country. And now, the president did give us the direction to say this is where we're heading as a country. Now we're looking up to the finance minister through the budget speech to give us the how in terms of how do we reach, those milestones that we've been set. There has been numbers that have been thrown around, but now we have to look in terms of balancing the scales because we know that the purse has shrunk quite significantly, and now we have to see in terms of how do we make sure that while we have these ambitious plans and targets, we also need to keep, the basic of the economy running. So there is a lot of pressure now sitting on the shoulders of the finance minister in terms of how do we now get the plan in action in terms of reaching the 3%, creating jobs, and also sustaining the purse.
All right, Nkosinathi, thank you so much for your time this evening. That is Nkosinathi Mahlangu. He is the Youth Employment Portfolio Head at Momentum Group, just giving us his perspective when it comes to job creation, of course, which was highlighted by the President in the State of the Nation address last night, of course, with a focus there with the economic perspective.